to make sure that we are live. I always do that as a backup because,
Yeah.
and I always kind of dance it out too,
Yeah.
so that I don't look too um, crazy. It says that it doesn't say, and
I'm
I,
seeing it. Yeah, you're streaming now.
okay,
Yes, and
perfect,
me too is now
perfect.
streaming
So
live.
we are good. Yes. So how is
Woo!
everyone doing? We are so excited to be here. Y'all might notice my background is a little bit different. It's because life happens and we are just going to roll with it. But I am so happy to be here. I'm so happy to have you here and I welcome you. So give me just one moment. We are going to make sure that we are on track and that everybody can hear us. And again, you are here and we are launching our Mind, Body, and Soul, the nonprofit professionals exchange, self-care. And, you know, because of my personal journey and the complexities of being a nonprofit professional, you know, this is our second annual speaker series around this topic. But first, as you know, I am Sabrina. I am the founder of Supporting World Hope, and I've been in the nonprofit industry for 25 years. I know I don't look like it, but I have. I'll take that for myself. And I started this group, you know, and the company because I was a nonprofit professional who was overstressed, overwhelmed, and overworked. And honestly, a little bit about my journey. Some of you know it and some of you don't. But in 2018, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I was diagnosed with two cancers, lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and multiple myeloma. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, you start looking at all those behaviors and the little things in your life that's happening. And mine was directly related to stress. And so stressed and I just wasn't taking care of myself. I was busy taking care of everyone else, taking care of my clients, taking care of the organization, taking care of family, taking care of everyone else except for myself. And so I don't want that to happen to anyone else. And if I can bring you the tools and have fabulous professionals like we have with us that can help you navigate that situation, that's what I would like to do. And that's the whole mission of my company. And that's why I call it Supporting World Hope, because nonprofits are the hope of the world, and I want to support you. So with that, I cannot think of a better way to kick off this series than to talk to Dr. Dunni Atalabi. And she's the founder and the coach of Druwa Academy. And today she's going to be talking about why am I doing this? The keys to making quantum leaps. So before we get started, click the like or the heart button if you can hear me, and let me know where you're watching from. Even if you're watching in replay, you can put hashtag replay. This is going to help with our Facebook algorithms and drive this conversation to the top. And so before we get started, Dr. Dunni, tell me a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Awesome. Oh, thank you very much, Sabrina. I'm so pleased to be here with you all. Dunni Atalabi. I'm a family doctor. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a coach. And I'm very passionate about self care and well being because it's always been my calling, but more so because I know how difficult it can be for people who are grieving, for moms especially, and for people who are in the caregiving profession or the service giving profession to care for everyone else except themselves. And for that reason, I started the Druwa Academy with the aim of helping people and supporting people in enhancing their well being. Whenever you meet someone who has been taking care of other people, They tend to focus on everybody else's needs except theirs. And unfortunately, that's where the problem starts. So rather than wait until the time they come to see me with that symptom in my family doctor clinic, I'd rather they start putting things in place that would help them live a life that would bring health and joy to them.
Good. Thank you, because that is a message that we definitely need to hear today. And with that, there are some questions that I have for you that I'm hoping that you can answer for me. We kind of poll the group, and we have some questions that they posed for us. So one of the first questions that I have is, how do you address the fear of the unknown?
Mm, that is a very good question. One thing we need to bear in mind is what fear is. What is fear really? I would like to give you this definition of fear, and I want you to keep that at the back of your mind anytime you think of fear of anything. Fear is false evidence appearing real. You know why? Because when you look at something and you feel a feeling or an emotion whereby you feel afraid or terrified, you're sometimes exaggerating the scenario or giving a different meaning to that scenario. Now, obviously, when something has happened in the past, you kind of can remember because you have experienced it. If however, something is happening now, you're in the moment and you can feel it. But when something is going to happen in the future, you do not know which way it's going to go. And that's obviously where fear of the unknown comes in. So at that point, a way to address that false evidence appearing real of the future is to actually take a childlike approach. And what I mean by childlike approach is, you remember those good old days when before we were told, don't touch that, don't jump there, keep quiet, don't make noise. There were things we did. There were places we went to. There were dreams we had as children. At that point, we had no limits. We did not worry about what was going to happen next. So if I jumped from the top of the table to the floor, I didn't know whether I was going to break my head or not. I just jumped as a child. And that is where we need to go into. Because for some reason, the number of children who have jumped from heights and the number of children who have broken their legs, the proportion is a lot lower. So when you're terrified or you're afraid of the unknown, you're afraid of that future thing, the thing that you feel is behind the curtain or behind the door you're about to open, it's almost as though you're hurting yourself twice. You're terrified at that moment. And if you open the door and there's something really terrifying there, you're terrified again. And unfortunately, it triggers your system. So you're going in that hyper alert mode and you don't want to be there. When you have something in terms of the unknown, think, what could this be? Play around with the thoughts in your head in the sense that rather than having that, I'm afraid, I don't know what's going to happen, say, I'm excited. You see, this is where your words come and they're so important. I'm excited. I'm thrilled to find out what's behind that closed door. I'm thrilled to find out what's at the end of this adventure. I'm thrilled to find out what's going to happen when I meet that person in the business I'm about to go into. Be curious, be childlike, because things happen for you. And even experiences that you think are not particularly great are part of the things that have molded the greats in our world today. So my answer to that is basically your childlike approach to the fear.
Perfect. And so when you are making that approach, And we all have that kind of imposter syndrome, that negative critic. How do you address that inner thoughts, those negative inner thoughts, that negative inner critic? How do you address that?
Oh, that is beautiful. Now, I'm going to start this with a story, okay? I love stories. And there was this story I heard of. It was a story of a little boy speaking to his grandfather. And I think he did say the grandfather was telling him a story about two wolves. And he said the two wolves are in a situation and they're fighting or one is trying to get the upper hand. And the boy was very curious. He was like, wow, these wolves are fighting, really? So who's going to win? The answer was the one you feed. The wolf are the ones that will tell you, keep going, you're doing great. And the other one is the one that tells you, imposter, you can't make it. Who do you think you are? Now, the moment you start to listen and feed the one that is telling you you're not good enough, it gets the upper hand, it gets the power. And that's where your inner critic becomes more powerful than your authentic self. Now, the way to get rid or to remove the power or to strip the power that the imposter or critical wolf has over you is to remember who you are. Remember who you are. And I also add, for those who are maybe believing in a higher power, whose you are. You know why? Because you as a being, you're not, and that's the reason why I really love this speaker series, because you're not just body, you're not just mind, you're a combination of body, mind, soul, and spirit. The power that you have got within you is so profound that you can speak a word and it comes to be. You can think of something and it comes to be. How do you know that? Look at the mobile phone everyone carries around. It was a human being that thought about it and came to be. Look at the plane, a big metal carrying people across in the air. It was a human being that thought of that and came to be. Because of the potential within each and every one of us, it is very important for you to remember who you are. And when you remember who you are, you silence your inner critic. Because your inner critic comes and says, who do you think you are? You can't do it. You can't make it. You're like, I know who I am and whose I am. And it keeps quiet.
That is awesome information. Remember who you are and whose you are, and quiet down that inner critic that is happening on the inside of your head. That is awesome information. That is something I'm going to take with me. And so the other question that I have is, how can you form new thoughts that align with a bold vision? If you remember who you are and whose you are, right? How can you form new thoughts and have a bold vision?
Yeah, that's a very great question. Let's see. So obviously, the answers are in the question. So to get a good answer or to get a way to move forward, you need to ask the right questions. If you don't ask the right questions, or if you ask the wrong questions, you get disempowered. So from the previous response to the response to the previous question, who am I? You remember who you are. Then you remember, why am I doing this? Because when you think of a bold vision, you find out who you are. And sometimes you might feel, especially some people who are very critical of themselves, maybe you've fallen short. something has happened in your life. You are not living to your full potential, and you know that. That's fine. We're all in that situation. None of us is living at our full potential. And so, when you remember who you are, also remember who you're meant to be. And when you remember who you're meant to be, you know that your potential is infinite. And by virtue of that, you can then envision that big thing that you're thinking that is impossible, that thing that you think, oh my goodness, am I reaching for the stars? I shouldn't be going that far. Maybe I should just reach for the ceiling in my house, kind of thing. At that point, you start to think, you start to have the ideas, you start to have that thought. Why am I reaching for that star? Why am I having that bold vision? When you know your purpose, which is sometimes some people have it either by intuition, maybe they were meditating and then they had the thoughts or the voice and they just felt that strong calling within them, or maybe they experienced something and you feel that this vision was just so laid up in your heart. The time comes when you want to actually take action, but your thoughts are holding you back. The ability to form those thoughts and to ask questions that will empower you. Because when you know why you're doing what you're going to do, why you're going to take that bold step towards that vision that seems impossible or that seems beyond reach, you would just remember that you take one step after another and after another. You don't have to see the full stretch and say, oh, that's the promised land over there, right? I can see all the stuff. Remember, you're on this yellow brick road. We're all on this yellow brick road together. You take the step, and then the next pavement comes in front of you, and you put your feet. And sometimes you have to take that step before the pavement appears before your feet. And that's where the element of faith comes in. Once your why is big enough, the sky is the limit. And those thoughts that are empowering you to take that step will be there to help you on the way.
That's awesome. So who you are, whose you are, and what is your purpose and your why. Remember those things and move it. It'll get you moving forward. So when you are in that process of acknowledging who you are, whose you are, and your purpose, but then you still have this scarcity mindset, how do you change that, especially how do you address the scarcity mindset, especially when it comes to resources or when it comes to self-care? So I guess the first question is, how do you address the scarcity mindset when it comes to resources first?
Yeah. Okay. That's a very great one, because resources, we all have this thing where we have our the money or the time or the personnel that we require. But something we need to also remember is that when you have something in front of you, you can either see it, like, for example, you're looking at a glass of water that is half filled. To some people, they will describe it as half full glass of water. And to some, they will describe it as half empty. And I'm sure people have heard when the half filled glass is described, they think of the people who are optimistic. And when it's half empty described, you're thinking about the people who are pessimistic. Now, I don't particularly like either in that sense. There is a better way. There is that half-filled glass with a pitcher of water beside it that I can refill at any time. Because that comes from a mind of there is more from where that came from. And when you think about that, when you have that at the back of your mind, because this is something that you can cultivate. Sometimes it looks as though things are, it's so difficult now. I mean, I know that, yes, COVID came and hit many people, many businesses, And yes, there are some losses, but in the midst of COVID, people have built houses, people have built businesses, people have made millions, people have made progress. Those people, they have the same one head that each and every one of us have. And when you think that there is a possibility, then there is a way. So think of your glass of water as not just the glass, but have a picture full of water on the side that you can always use to refill it. Because when you think about not having enough, it gets manifested in your life. And when you say, oh, I don't have enough, so the little I have, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to hoard it, it's not going to help. You know why? If I were to come to you and say, please, would you give me, let's see, would you give me some peanuts? Okay. I came up to you and say, would you give me some peanuts? You say, yeah, sure, stretch your hand. And I go like that. What do I have to do first? Let go. Open my hand. That's what we need to do. And that's to be able to do that, you need to come from abundance, an abundance mindset, a mindset that there is more. You may not have more in your pocket yet, but it's coming. And so here, you let go, and then more can come to you.
Wow. Wow. So whose you are, whose you are, what is your purpose? And I've never heard it quite put the way you put it. I always said I'm a glass half full person, but I've never heard that there's a picture right there. You can always fill it up again. That is awesome. That's a whole new way of thinking about it. That was kind of an aha moment for me. So thank you for that. Madi, thank you for joining us. Madi is on, and she's also joining us from her car. She's doing curbside, so I don't feel so bad now. So my next question is around scarcity mindset as well, but let's talk about it when it comes to self-care. Well, how can we address that?
Yeah. Okay, now scarcity mindset as regards to self-care. Now the problem here is, or the challenge here is, because I'm very, very careful with those words. The challenge here is we think there's no time. I think with self-care, time is the main issue. And that's one thing that we don't realize we have and we can create. There's so many ways to do that. I feel so excited because that's one thing I work on. So when it comes to self-care, we forget about our innate duty. What do I mean by that? When we were all made and we started growing up and having offsprings and, you know, having relationships with people, we felt the need for a community. So we all came together. I mean, human beings don't live in isolation. We love being together. We love supporting each other. And so we tend to care for people. Now, sometimes it's more seen in certain gender, like females are more seen in that caring role. And sometimes it's linked to the chemicals that are released, like oxytocin, which we have quite an abundance of, especially if you've just given birth. You've got quite an abundance of. So you're feeling very caring. But at that point, I would like to bring you to something that we all, for all those who have traveled ever on the airplane, there is something they always say. And when they're going through the safety instructions, they go, in the event that the pressure in the cabin should drop, some oxygen mask will fall from above, and put your oxygen mask first before you help someone else. I absolutely love that instruction because it's something that many people do not do. So imagine I was on the plane with my children, one on each side, and they were going through that. I was like, Okay, so if something should happen, you think I wouldn't go and put on them first? But when you think about it, it's only the person who has life that can care for someone else. Only the person who has good health that can care for someone else. If you are depleted, there is no way you will be of service to anybody else. So think about your mission, think about your relationships. You can't serve anybody if you're depleted. So let's address that scarcity of time that you think. So we're going to try to create time that you think that you do not have. I'm going to teach you, or rather teach people this quick thing that I encourage people to do. Okay. First of all, take 5 things that you like doing. So sometimes it could be maybe you like going for walks, or um, you like resting or reading a book or meditating, things that you think are relaxing for you or refreshing for you. Just write them down. Now, I want you to look at those things and see how you can make them between 5 to 10 minutes. I'll give you an example. If you're someone who likes to say exercise, and you go, when I want to exercise, I go to the gym. Now, when I go to the gym, I spend at least 1 hour. There is a way you can shorten that to 5 minutes and you'll still get your workout. If you're one that says, oh, I like to rest, there is a way you can rest 5 minutes and you will still get that refreshment. And for that reason, that's why I tell people that, oh my goodness, when you're in a place on your day, set a timer, reminder about 3 or 4 times in the day, such that when it buzzes, you stop what you're doing and then you try to either go for a quick drink of water, or you have some time when you just sit down and deep breathe, or you do some jumping jacks on the spots, or you just meditate, just practice some mindfulness. And thankfully, there are some apps that we have these days that just give like 5 minute meditation or 5 minute breathing exercises. And there is also the exercise where you can go like have it. If you're one of the people that like intense workout, good. There is one called the Tabata that you can do in like 4 to 5 minutes and you're done and you're sweating profusely and you're like, yes, my heart's pumping. So having those interruptions in your day go a long way to create time for you. Because if you keep going without resting or being interrupted to care for yourself in between, you're not going to be efficient in your task at all. You're going to be depleted and just keep going. Okay, let me just finish this. Your concentration is already like 1/10, so you spend longer doing that same task. But if you were refreshed and you came back, you spend less time getting that done.
That's very true. It increase your productivity if you do the way you're saying it. It makes sense to me. So, hey, if you are just joining us, welcome to the broadcast. We're currently talking with Dr. Dunni about, why am I doing this? The key to making quantum leaps. And we've just covered some awesome topics. We talked about knowing who you are, whose you are, what purpose, and the one aha moment for me has been, if you are a glass half full, glass half empty person, it doesn't matter. There's a picture on the table where you can re-pour some water. So you always have access, which was like, ooh, okay, that's a good one. So again, if you are here, if you can please click the heart or the like button, that's going to help us with our algorithms, our Facebook algorithms. And if you're watching in replay, continue to do that. Put hashtag replay. Let us know where you're from. Any comments, any engagement will be helpful for those Facebook algorithms. So Dr. Dunni, I have a couple of more questions for you. So,
Okay.
how can you intentionally and consistently choose a positive? So, did you hear the question?
No, it was breaking in between.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Okay, here's the question. How can you intentionally and consistently you have to choose a positive mindset?
Oh gosh, I absolutely love that word choose, because many people feel that they have no choice. And that's one of the things that brings about sadness, despair, fear, and depression. Why? Because they feel they have no choice. And there's one thing that I know that we all have. We all have a choice. And when we fail to exercise that choice, we suffer. So it still comes down to you taking that step because of who you are. It still comes down to you exercising your authority of choice. Because I would give an example of someone going to on a journey. If you're going from, say, point A, because obviously we are all in different locations. So if I was giving you my local description, it's going to be a bit difficult. But if I was saying I was traveling from the UK to the US, I have a choice on how I would like to get there. I could decide to ferry across, take a cruise ship that would take me right across, or I could decide that I would like to fly there. When you wake up, all you do from the time you get up, or rather, not the time you get up, from the time your body wakes up to the time you sleep, are all choices. We may not know them, but you choose to open your eyes. You choose to step out of bed. You choose to brush your teeth, because you could decide you don't want to brush your teeth. You may not like the consequences of that, but you have a choice. And so, remembering that everything is a choice that you make, not for anybody else, but for you and your sanity, your well being, and your future, you need to remember to make that choice. So, having at the back of your mind of who you are, always remember that it's within your power to choose positivity.
Thank you for that. You can choose positivity, especially if you know who you are. You can make that choice for yourself. That is so important and so eye-opening, because you do have a choice about how you wake up and about how you address the day. And so, with that in mind, what recommendations or strategies do you have that you can suggest in prioritizing mental health for nonprofit professionals?
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So I have some tools that I use, and there are things that kind of help your mental health like that. Okay. Now, many people realize that, or rather, see that maybe they're in a state of overwhelm, stress, or fear, and they kind of ruminate and they go over the scenario over and over again, or they say things that are not helpful to that situation. One thing I want to suggest is, or rather, quite a few. I'm going to give a few things you can do in that situation where you're feeling like you're angry, you're upset, you're fearful. the first thing you do is choose to stop. Stop. The next thing you can do is change. What are you changing? You're changing where you look. When someone says, "So how are you feeling?" "I'm not feeling great." "And how are you feeling?" "I'm feeling hopeful." When you look up, it gives you a different perspective from when you're looking down. Looking down gives you this, "Why me? How could this happen to me? This always happens to me." And you're asking the wrong questions. When you look up, you're like, "What else can this be? How can I make this different? What kind of progress opportunities before me?" So when you look up, it gives you that change. And there is a study, actually, I saw it. Have you heard of, I'm a bit of a geek. You know, all the Superman and Wonder Woman and stuff, when they do their power pose and they just stand like that, they have found that when you are in your power pose, there are some changes in your hormonal balances and release of chemicals in your body. Testosterone, which is one of the chemicals that help you to kind of deal with challenges, is increased. Cortisol, which is the stress chemical, is decreased. Now, when you think about that, just a change in the way you stand is different, and it will make a difference. So you are changing the way you look, you're changing your posture. The other thing you need to change is your face. You change your face. Someone has just upset you. Someone has just told you, "We are pulling the funding we were giving you. You need to find your way. From now on, make bricks without straw." Ha! At that point, obviously, you go, "Oh my God, what's happening now? And the world has come to an end. I'm not going to be able to make it." That's the time to stop and burst into a laugh. Break out a smile. You may not feel like that at the moment, but the moment you do that, there is that possibility. Because when you are all way down and going, "Oh, what am I going to do?" Your thinking brain is not working. Your emotional brain is the one that is doing the thinking for you. Your primitive brain is telling you, "Oh my goodness, this is going to happen. You know, I told you before, it wasn't going to work before. Nobody cares about your business. Nobody cares about that non-profit you're doing. You need to, who did you think you were before?" That's all that one is going to tell you. The one that is going to give you the way out, the one that is going to tell you how to bootstrap, the one that is going to give you those possibilities of who to meet and who to connect with, is your thinking brain. And you need to change the expression of your face to help your thinking brain to become the one in charge. One last thing I would like to mention that you need to change is your breathing. Why? When you're afraid, when you're upset, your breathing is shallow. Now, in the human body, I remember when I was studying physiology, when you breathe in, you have this area we call the dead space, which doesn't really get inflated that much. So when we calculate pulmonary function test or breathing function tests, if your dead space is really large, you're in trouble. So when we breathe shallow, you're not expanding your lungs the way it should be. And when you don't do that, the amount of oxygen that is available to all parts of your body is less. When you change your breathing from that shallow breath that you have when you're afraid or you're panicking, you help yourself to get in more oxygen. That's physiologically speaking, just from a medical point of view. You help yourself to get more oxygen that then becomes available to different parts of your body, most especially your brain that is going to do the thinking for you. So, apart from that, that deep breathing relaxes you. It calms you down. So those are the things you can do. So stop and change all those things.
So pose, do a power pose because that's going to
Yeah.
change it. Yes, fix your face, fix your face, and also make sure you breathe. Wow, that is awesome, and that's all within your control. You have a choice about how you do those things. That's all something that you can fix, and it's in your control. Woo, okay. Thank you for that. And so I have one more question. Marie, thank you for joining us. I see you out there. Thank you for joining us. What is the best advice that you can give around mindset?
Oh,
So what is the
uh,
best advice you can give around mindset?
mm, oh my goodness. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of make this one simple, but it's a quote. I think it's by Henry Ford. Is it? Yeah, I think it's by Henry Ford. It says, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So
I've heard that one. If you think you can and you think you can't, you're right. Awesome. There's power in the mind. There's power in the thoughts and the choices that you make. Wow. That is awesome. So I am going to check and see if there's any questions that
okay.
has been posed. I'm very happy for the people that have joined us. I know a lot of the people are going to be watching in replay, but I always like to give people the opportunity. We're getting a lot of likes. We're getting that. Give people the opportunity to ask any direct questions. I know a lot of times because what we do as nonprofit professionals, a lot of the questions are always around fundraising. And I just want to let people know if you have a fundraising question that they can visit my site at www.supportingworldhope. And of course, I will always get back with the fundraising questions. But today we're talking with Dr. Dunni about your why. And so it's very important to us that we address that and that you understand that your why is going to get you through those fundraising hurdles. Just like she said, you have to remember your why. And so with that, Dr. Dunni, if people wanted to get in contact with you and have and maybe even join your email list or have some direct questions that you have, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, I think the best way would be to get to my website
Okay.
actually. So
Okay.
it's www.druwaacademy.com.
Okay, and we'll be putting that in the comments for sure, just so people can make sure that they get in contact with you. And the other thing that I would like to add to that is that I am so appreciative of what you had to say today. And I know a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you from this point of view, from sitting on this end now in reflective mode, I'm one of those nonprofit professionals who kind of rolled my eyes when people talked about self-care because like nobody got time for self-care. Who has time for that? But it is so critical and it's so important. Just, just based on what you said today, you have to make time for it, because if you don't make time for it, if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then you can't save anybody else. And so I know we're all in this because we are passionate about helping people and saving people. And so I just want you to be reminded about why you got into this and really take what Dr. Dunni is saying to heart. Before we close out, Dr. Dunni, I wanted to give you the opportunity to see if you have any last words.
Okay, so most importantly, I'd like to encourage everyone, especially if you're in the nonprofit business. It's an amazing mission. It's something that all over the world have benefited from. And even though you're serving like a greater good, you're you're meeting one of those very big needs of the human being of contribution. I want you to remember that for you to be able to contribute, you need to grow. And what helps you grow is your constant nourishment of yourself. You will not get a plant and water it once and say, there you go, see ya. You're going to keep watering it. You're going to keep nurturing it. So, yes, this might be an annual event, but I want you to pick one practice, at least one practice every day that you're going to use to nourish your mind, your body, your spirit. Whether it be a gratitude practice, reading, either reading a physical book or listening to an audio book, pick something. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, start with 5 minutes and see how it grows. Because if you do not grow, you cannot contribute. And if you do not grow, you cannot thrive. If you do not grow, you may get to that point where you become non-existent, and we do not want that. So please grow. Put a daily practice in place to nourish yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, your words are speaking to me. And tomorrow we're going to be discussing self-care. Let's start with sleep. And we actually have Carol here, and she's going to be speaking tomorrow. So wave at the people, Carol. And I just want to say I'm excited about tomorrow because sleep is one of those things that I have a hard time with. So I will leave you with this. Your mission matters and deserves to be highlighted in your community. Your mission matters and can be an inspiration to those who need it the most. Your mission matters and deserves to be funded to its fullest capacity. And again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Dr. Dunni. Thank you so much.